Hello, PenPower V8 League racers. Next race that we're going to is Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, or as I like to refer to it as mosport. My home track, just a couple of hours from where I live. Very famous track. Formula One ran here back in 1967. So this week we're going to have a different format, something we haven't tried before. It's going to be 3 very short races, 15 laps each. Only need about maybe 11 gallons of gas, 11 and a half gallons of gas for each race. And we have 3 different scenarios. We have a morning scenario, an afternoon scenario, and a late afternoon scenario with some reverse grids. So the hot lap this week is done in the morning. That's the first race that we're going to be doing. The weather's clear, track's at 78%, zero track usage, as each track in each scenario is starting with a clean track. The winds are out of the southwest at 7. Track's fairly grippy. Time that we're turning here is a low 118. I've been in the 117s with maybe a little cooler weather or overcast weather, but fairly representative lap. Missed maybe a couple of tenths in a couple of spots, but overall I think this is fairly decent. The setup is pretty stable. The trick here, although there's only 10 corners, is that you have to hit the apexes correctly, and if you don't, you'll understeer off quite easily. So we're going to go through the lap turn by turn, and then we'll do 1 lap uninterrupted. We are just approaching the start-finish line, and as you can see, we've already shifted into 4th gear here. When we cross the start-finish line, there's going to be a tendency to want to upshift. I would recommend not doing so because you're going to have to immediately downshift. It's just as well just to hit the limiter and then lift. So you can see here, we're just past start-finish line. I hit the limiter, I'm completely off the gas, and I'm using a little bit of brake. We're aiming for this inside curb, which is about 2 feet off the wall. I'm going to try and stay on this curb for as long as possible. The car will want to drift out to the left-hand side. No issue with that. Just don't get on the grass because that's a recipe for disaster in this particular point. So we just upshifted to 5th, and with this weather, we're going to actually downshift to 4th. For this upcoming corner. So turn 2 is extremely dangerous. You need to position yourself on the right hand side of the track. Just when we get to the crest, we're going to downshift, we're going to brake, and we're going to turn in so that we try and get to the inside of this turn. It wants to take you to the right, and any contact with the grass there, and your race is over. You can see again, we're inside here. There's absolutely no gas. We're on the brake. We're trying to get that car slowed around so that once we get past the apex, we can start to apply power again. And there we are. So the car just moved out a little bit on us, but it did so in such a way that we can actually start to point towards the second part of this corner. Full gas, shift to 5th, and this upcoming corner here, turn 3, right-hander. There's a big patch sort of in the middle left of this corner that is repaved. You're going to want to straddle your left-hand side tires on that paved patch. Careful of this curb here. I was a little bit too tight to it, probably lost a tenth in this area. You're probably better off to be about a foot away from that curb. So turn 4 is coming up. Again, another corner where you have to position yourself well to the right hand side of the track, and then aim for the inside left. We are not going to downshift here. We're just going to lift and turn it in. You're going to see another 2 patches of pavement that have been redone, and you're going to want to drive the car right over those. So Moss Corner, very tricky. This is uphill, and Moss is turn 5A and 5B. We're in 5th gear. We're going to downshift all the way to 2nd by the time we get to 5B. I downshifted a little early here, but what I would recommend is 4th, 3rd on the uphill portion, and then 2nd just across the top. So I downshifted a little too early into to 2nd here. Might want to hold on just a little bit longer. And the exit of this corner is critical. You're going to want to make, let me just forward this. See that curb right there? I'm in too close to it right now, and I'm actually going to touch it a little bit. That upsets the car. Probably lost maybe a 1/2 tenth in this area, but you really want to smooth this complex out. So, you know, coming down the hill, you're in 5th, downshift to 4th, downshift to 3rd, get across the top, downshift to 2nd just before the turn in here, and then start to accelerate so you get really good exit onto this long straight. That's critical. You can see we're just about to top out in 6th gear here. I'm using a 1042 rear gear. The 1074 will top out well before this, and if you get any sort of draft, it's not going to help you at all. In fact, if it's any colder than this, you may want to consider going down to the 1.0 gear. We're right at the crest of the hill here. Top of 6th gear, we're going to downshift. We're going to lift, then downshift into 5th and 4th for the right-hander that's coming up. Real tight into this curb here. You can see I'm already into 4th gear. Depending on your entry speed, you may wish to wait a little bit longer before going into 4th, but 4th is what you want to be right around this area. Stay well to the right-hand side to position yourself for the next left-hander. So this left-hander, just before that, we're going to downshift into 3rd. Do not, under any circumstances, downshift into 2nd through the next 2 corners. The car will become very, very unstable, and especially on the exit of 10, the car is going to want to spin. So again, we're using that dark piece of pavement that's been repaved, and we're right up against the curb here. So there you have a lap of Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, 118.17. I turned to 117.4 here with the within the last year with the package that we have, and previous to that, I think the car was a little bit faster. I did a 116.9, but very, very favorable conditions. So we're going to go through the lap again uninterrupted, and let's go through that. have a lap at mosport. As we're doing 3 different sessions, I did do a little bit of practice with the afternoon session with a default weather setting, 107 track temperature, and my times were very low, 119, 119.1, 119.2, and the only change to the setup was tire pressure change to 22 pounds all the way around. Still need to fiddle with that a little bit. I think there's more in it, and I haven't done an afternoon session yet, or late afternoon session, I should say. But I expect the times to be fairly comparable to the morning setup in the late afternoon. So there you have it. As always, these videos are brought to you by Never Quit Racing and our sponsor SimAbility. And I'd like to send a shout out to PenPower for sponsoring our league. We'll see you in a week's time. Take care, everyone.